Hey everyone, before we get into anything too existential and depressing, here's a cute frog. He'll be showing up intermittently to ensure viewers don't get too sad while watching this video. His name is Paul. Night City is a living, breathing, dying place. And I don't mean that in the sense of in lore, it's alive. I mean that as a player, Night City feels alive. People of all walks line the streets, traveling to and from everywhere imaginable. Cars zoom past, ads for new body implants and combat cyberware blare from the countless screens plastered across the cityscape. Gunshots ring out from every alley that lies between the towering skyscrapers emblazoned with corporate logos. There's no NCPD in sight. Probably can't afford the men. Or maybe they just don't care. The news on the elevator is talking about some new shock BD coming out soon. The death of the mayor, followed by some new life-saving medicine that's too expensive to ever afford. You're not paying enough attention to know all the specifics. You've got a job to do. You, V, will meet a lot of people during your time in Night City. And while most of them don't have your best interest at heart, other NPCs do something really cool. They stick around. And not just in a they show up in missions sometimes sense. Characters will often communicate with V through text. Sometimes hours after you complete a mission, that same character will text you with an update on what happened afterwards. These messages can lead into new missions and new choices, tie into other seemingly unrelated quests. Now, many games before have used texting systems as mission updates, so that's nothing new. But Cyberpunk goes beyond that. Characters will text about their emotions regarding things that transpired, trying to wrap their head around events and thoughts. Sometimes you'll get texts from automated systems reminding you to pay rent or that there's a show of some celebrity happening somewhere nearby. Some characters text like your 50-year-old boomer dad, while others will use modern slang and emojis. Some will simply send you small life updates regarding a newborn child or a car they purchased. These characters text about everything, something that just feels real. The world feels real. You constantly stumble into small events, police skirmishes, folks in need of a helping hand, notes left behind at the scene of a crime that detail the often tragic events that transpired before you ever even arrived. The game forces players to wait actual time in between mission steps, so you bum around, you meet new people, you explore the world and uncover stories about life in Night City, new characters and quests to engage with. You even hear about possible missions that might not trigger until way down the road, the events preceding them casually alluded to by passing NPCs or details within the world. And due to all this, there is a genuine sense of time moving forward within the world of Night City. That these people don't just jump right from one hyper-specific story element to the next because they have lives here. People to visit, things to do. You, the player, are not the only thing that matters to these characters, to this world. You're often presented with choices, large and small, that help determine V's relationships, decisions that continue to affect how characters interact with you as their story progresses, how they treat you, whether or not they're around for missions. And V not only interacts with these characters and the world through these choices, but physically. Throughout the game, we constantly see V's hands. We look down and see the shoes we've chosen to wear, our coat and our shirt. We see V press buttons, pick up bottles. We see them touch people's shoulders in times of hardship, hold close to those they choose to love. Because V is physically there, interacting with the world and its inhabitants, it lends weight to their presence within Night City. This is a big part of what makes V and the characters they meet feel and I know I've been saying this a lot, but real. When these characters experience loss or tragedy, sometimes in partial or direct consequence to a choice you, the player, made, it's never played for a joke or glossed over. They're allowed to have these quiet, honest, physical moments that you experience with them. Beauty, love, anger, sadness. And these moments we share with them are important. Characters hold on to them, to memories that we make with them, because in Night City, they're rare. People in the city keep moving, but the city doesn't really change. This is the heart-wrenching reality of Night City. These people with hopes and dreams and lives are stuck in a place that doesn't care about them. And while I enjoyed my time in Night City, shooting up bad guys and driving around on a motorcycle, I couldn't get something out of my head. How can anyone change a place like this?
Night Case Files.
Welcome to Night City Case Files. Today we're talking about change, people who want it, and a city that ain't a fan of it. Our first foray today will be into cops and criminals, two sides of the same coin. Joshua Stevenson is a strange, tragic case. A man V was hired to kill, only for him to ask the merc to spend the day with him. V can choose either path: kill the man, leave him, or follow him. And Joshua is a murderer. The blood of several people on his hands simply because, well...
Why'd you shoot him?
I was holding a gun. I didn't like the way they looked at me, and I had the power to stop them.
But he's also a man who spent the last 12 years in prison on death row facing the electric chair. During his time, the sister of one of his victims reached out through letters, and the two began to talk, to discuss faith, God, religion. And Joshua became a new man, a man of faith, who made it his mission to seek forgiveness from those he's wronged.
I still see their faces just before frozen in time. God, give me strength to never forget.
And he's been offered something big, an opportunity to share his faith with the world. It'll only cost him the life that was already set to be taken. He's been made this offer by Fourth Wall Media Studios, who seek to crucify him, record it, and release it as a brain dance to the public. They seek to release it under the title The Passion, highlighting the religious iconography of Jesus' crucifixion in a bid to sell to the religious populace of Night City. The legality of all this should be questionable, but,
Corps write the laws. Corps choose the judges. All it takes is a sit-down between the studio's CEO and a state's attorney.
Joshua truly believes that this will help others find the Lord by experiencing how Jesus suffered for them, for their sins. He's convinced that it will remind the population of the city of the Lord's love, and he will be the vessel, his great redemption.
Think of the millions jacked into their feeds like livestock. The children growing up in gang-infested streets. Do they know love? Think of the joy toys on Jig Jig Street. Coked-out corpos in their offices and murderers who stalk the streets. I want to reach them. I will reach them!
Those close to him rightfully tell him that it's insane, that he's simply trading one execution for another, one with flashier lights and a camera. V sits down with Joshua several times over the course of the next few days. He asks V to join him in prayer, and each time he seems a bit more unsure. He's tried, but he cannot gain the forgiveness of the mother of a man whose life he took.
You murdered my son. That is something I can never forgive.
I truly do regret the pain I have caused you.
Out of my house, now!
And yet, he knows this is his only opportunity to do something that he feels matters, to reach people. It's either this, or the chair in an empty room. And while he becomes shaken, he never loses faith that he's making the right call. As the execution approaches, V is given a choice. Watch, leave, or be the one wielding the hammer. But in the end, the decision doesn't matter. They make the BD either way. We never see the end result. We only receive a call from the studio that it was a hit, and hear about it on a talk show sometime later, discussed as though it were simply a summer blockbuster with impressive effects. A must-see, one that fades into a sea of other mindless media as the weeks go by. Case File 2. River Ward. Night City's super cop. The man who saved the mayor from a cyber psycho just in the nick of time. Only for the mayor to pass on mysteriously a few days later. A circumstance he's asked to forget about.
You back on that? Boss already told you to drop it.
V can choose to partner up and find the truth. And if they do, the two flash badges and use questionable methods to lead them to a mysterious sex club where the mayor indulged in an illicit BD, one that fried his brain in a second. Whole thing was ordered covered up by the mayor's own deputy. Mayor had a heart attack right as election season rolled in. The cover-up itself was carried out by River's own partner.
Who gave you the order?
What's the matter, River? Why do you even care? Your conscience is clear. You can sleep tight at night. You know why? Because I took all the responsibility. You got no idea how this city works. Think your goddamn inspirational, idealist bullshit actually means something? It doesn't. Never did. Let me tell you when I'll stop doing what I'm told. When I retire. Not a day sooner. Ought to consider doing the same, Ward.
River wouldn't let it go. Kept chasing the truth, but never gets any closure. In fact, he gets kicked off the force. No justice in Night City. Just cover-ups and lies. Keeping up an illusion of law and order while the murders and takeovers happen behind closed doors. Something all too familiar for ex-badges. Sometime later, River contacts V again, and it's urgent. Now, without his job on the force, River wants to go after the Peter Pan kidnapper, Anthony Harris. Man's already in custody, but his brain is much like the mayor's. Fried. Why does River want after this particular guy? Well, he's still got victims locked away. And River has reason to believe that one of them is his nephew Randy. Thing is, without his badge, he can't just waltz in with a whole crew. Hell, the NCPD has no interest in finding the victims at all. They caught the guy. That's what matters to them. If V chooses to help River save his nephew, the two stage a break-in at an NCPD lab and use untested tech to enter the kidnapper's dreams, finding out Harris was a broken kid who turned into a monster. He's been luring in depressed teens only to kidnap them and pump them full of cow chemicals in some fucked up attempt to fix what's broken. If all goes well, River saves his nephew, among others. NCPD takes credit for the whole thing, and River returns home. But not before attending to some business.
Sick fuck has to die. River, come on, man. It won't change anything. I don't know. Maybe you're right. But it's driving me crazy not doing anything. Actually, got quite a bit you can do, River. Joss, Randy, the kids. They're gonna need you now. More than ever. Yeah. No, you're right.
He reconnects with his sister, becomes like a father to the kids while they all help Randy recover. even invites V over for a cookout. But even after all that, something still eats at him.
About Harris?
I paid him a visit at the hospital, but
One shot to the head. Quick and clean.
I had the same thought. It would be so easy. I pressed the gun to his head and remembered something. When my parents died, a loud noise woke us one night. They wanted cash. Register was empty, so they stormed upstairs, forced us all to kneel, and demanded my dad tell him where he hid the money. He was erratic, went rabid, handed me his gun and ordered me to aim it at my mom's head. I can still see her tear-filled eyes at the end of that barrel to this day. Finally, he just snatched the gun back, shot my mother, and they left. Police never caught him. That was why I joined the force. I couldn't agree with scum like that roaming free.
Can't tell you how sorry I am.
So when I stood over Harris in that hospital bed, barrel to his brow, I was that kid again. But I was also the junkie who shot my parents.
Didn't kill him then?
I've ended a few lives in my time, but never like that. Never an execution. Slipped out of the hospital quick. Told myself the case was closed.
That's good.
Both of these men are in positions where they firmly believe they can change the world around them through their actions. Joshua is a reformed murderer, a man of intense faith, and a man out of options. He feels as though he's been granted his one and only opportunity to redeem himself, to bring the faith he's found to the masses. But the corporation who offers this to him doesn't care about faith. To them, it's nothing more than a way to earn more eddies. They're taking advantage of him, and he knows it.
I'm merely a springboard for her career.
A high-value asset.
But he believes that the power of his faith, his love, will shine through regardless. Whether or not that's true is questionable.
Title's the passion. We're speaking to the LCD, of course. And it's gonna revolutionize BD.
How so?
Well, Stevenson's furlough is only so long. We can only scroll the last bit with him. But we'll fill in the run-up to the finale with BD doubles and Emobank assets. It'll feel like Stevenson, though.
Ultimately, he's taken by the hand and walked into a glamorous execution like a child led by a kidnapper. His sacrifice amounting to little more than a rising stock price and another shocking video that gets discussed for a few days before the world moves on. Whereas River is a man who seeks justice, often violently, in a city where ideas like justice and law are little more than talk to serve corporate politics. It doesn't matter who actually killed the mayor. Blame it on a heart attack while a coup happens behind closed doors. It doesn't matter if we didn't find the victims. The killer's behind bars, so that's enough. When he loses his badge, he comes to understand that the NCPD doesn't share his ideals. They never did. He still wants to put the scum of the city away, men like Harris, but now he isn't sure. If he went around breaking laws, executing folk to fix what's broken, would he still be the same man? Or just another thug on Night City's streets? And what of his family? And while he struggles with the morality of his own ideals, the police continue on as they are. They enforce law on a corporate dime, and even then turn heel once someone rich enough pulls the brakes.
Our chief greases his palms with an anonymous donation. And guess what? Officially, kid blew his own brains out.
They let River get away with chasing down thugs because it served them, but once the justice he sought aimed too high, they let him go. By the end of it all, River remains conflicted, unsure if he should hold on to what he's regained by connecting with loved ones, or put it all on the line to try and seek justice on his own.
River's discovering the joys of family life.
That and police duty. Never a good mix.
These two represent men on opposite sides of the law. A criminal trying to repent for the lives he's taken by sacrificing his own, and a cop struggling with whether or not to continue his search for justice in a world that doesn't seem to care about it. Both are brought to question if their ideology, their attempts to change things, mean anything here. Their beliefs damaged by this place in the name of power and profit for the already wealthy, either sacrificed to a god that stands for nothing, or tossed aside when their morals clash with a city that has none.
Blue Moon, Red Menace, Purple Force, it's us cracks! After making waves in Tokyo, Sydney, and Paris, their next stop is on your doorstep.
Welcome back to Night City Case Files. Where were we? Ah, Rocker Boys. The beating heart of Night City. There's something like that. Johnny. Dear beloved Johnny Silverhand. A man living on as a digital construct in the mind of our protagonist. 50 years after he was the front line for Samurai. The originator of the Rocker Boy movement. Anti-corpo, anti-fascist, anti-military, anti-imperialist. A band set on changing the hearts and minds of Night City's youth through music that spoke to the truth of this city's, this country's corruption. 50 years after his explosive death took Night City by storm. And he's stuck, watching the world through V's eyes, forced to see a world that has not fundamentally changed since his time.
Blusaka Tower to smithereens, and it's still standing there, just the same. Know what changed? The damn facade. Fresh interface plugs, new high fructose scop syrup, and fun fruity flavors. A new face of Arasaka, same old shit, different packaging.
Johnny is a man out of time. A man who went through war, who put his goals before everything, everyone else. Doing everything he could to say fuck the corpos, fuck the system, and mean it. To share a message of brutal honesty with the denizens of Night City, to bring change to the world and do it his way.
I saw a corpse strip farmers of water, and eventually of land. Saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits, broken dreams, and emptied pockets. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand? People can be bought, brainwashed, but it's only in Mikoshi that you can peer inside a soul, pick it apart, reprogram it.
He saw atrocities committed in the name of profit, perpetuated, pepper time, perpetuated by a system with no desire to change direction. So he went out with one final message, an act of such massive proportion that it would be remembered by Night City for years, that would bring the corpo giant Arasaka to its knees. And he sacrificed himself and others to make it happen. His legacy on the world of Night City, the legacy of Samurai, lies in posters of his old band hanging in rich collectors' apartments, collectible albums sold at high prices, in tattered shirts and dusty books, old tabloids that discussed his act of terrorism on slow news days,
Once in a while, news slows to a trickle, so I try to push through some nonsense about Silverhand. Where's Johnny? What actually happened in Arasaka Tower?
On oldies stations playing in malls over the speakers of a shitty department store. In an unmarked grave tucked away in a scrapyard. He's forced to see the Arasaka logos hovering overhead, the people jacked into the net starving themselves rather than facing the reality of the city they live in, to face the impact, or lack of it, of everything he did. The people he hurt for his ideals, to face those he put on the line either died for nothing or were consumed by the city, dying in the dirt or selling out to the corporations. And then, of course, there's Kerry, previous bandmate of Johnny's, and the most famous rocker boy in Night City. Disorderly, loud, drunk, big house, fancy car, all the sex he could want. Fuck the man, fuck the system. Now brought to you by a megacorp label. V meets with him on Johnny's request, Johnny having heard through the grapevine that his old bandmate is dealing with depression. The two reconnect and reminisce about old times, getting the band back together for one last gig. Not long after, Us Cracks, a Japanese
laser pop ska
band, is set to perform a cover of one of Kerry's songs at a show, a cover he never agreed to. And so he brings V on the warpath, destroying their equipment, eventually breaking into the show itself and holding them at gunpoint.
But we're going to bring your rock into a new era. Isn't that what you want?
Rock? You? Okay, let me tell you something. It's been claimed before, but you actually did it. Rock is dead, and you killed it. Congratulations!
An event that culminates in the two artists joining together for a joint show when both sides realize the label lied to all of them. After this show, Kerry opens up about his choice to sell out.
Guess I wasn't completely honest with you. Or myself, for that matter. See, thought I was afraid everybody'd think me another corpo slave. But I was just afraid I'd be in someone's shadow again. Again? Lived in Johnny's for years. Part of the scenery, machinery. Helping him shine brighter. Never believed I'd make it on my own without Silverhand.
But you did make it. Big, too. Only diehards remember Samurai now. You. Everybody knows your name.
You think that changes anything? Wake up with the same thought every damn day. That I might somehow fade into this town's steam, stench, murk. For good. Night City's a city of shadows. Done everything I could to walk clear of them for years.
He is a slave to the corporations, to fear of this city, and deep down he understands that. He despises it, going on the warpath against something he claims is the death of rock, nothing more than a corporate product, because he fears that the truth is that he too is a product.
The Us Cracks thing. What if I'm a product just like those dolls? Drowning in dirty money instead of swimming in it.
Unlike Johnny, he does not seem to hold on to a notion that his music or his actions will change the world. He simply wants to maintain his lifestyle, his fame, to avoid being forgotten. And while he does seem to grow past his anxieties somewhat, he doesn't really change. As V moves onward, getting involved in plot after plot, Kerry remains a star wrapped in rebel's clothes, constantly shifting the way he presents himself as to remain marketable and safe to the corporations he's tied himself to. Kerry and Johnny are reflections of one another, rock stars at the top of the world, who throw tantrums and scream against the capitalism and corruption that is Night City. But one sold those ideals for the sake of staying famous, while the other threw away their life and the lives of others to uphold their beliefs. Whether you play the game or not, Night City is no one's ally. Johnny sacrifices everything for his ideals only to be forgotten to time, while Kerry, in a much less extreme way, does the same for fame and stability, destroying himself over knowing he doesn't hold to the ideals he claims to stand for, that he, too, has become nothing more than a product, all to remain on top of the world while still on a leash.
Say I break contract. Then what? Who's gonna release my new tracks? Who's gonna deal with distribution, promotion, influencers, media? Labels have got them all in their pockets. You're out with them, you're out, period.
You'd be free.
Seriously? Free to sing until you're blue in the face, nobody hearing a thing? It's just another kind of cage.
And through it all, the bombs, the breakdowns, the rocker boy movement, the city stays the same. All of these characters, everyone in Night City, has no power here. Regardless of ideals, status, resources, they can't change the city, how it functions. Only play by its rules or be eaten alive by it. Each of them holds on to some kind of hope that their choices have an impact, or at least that they ensure people remember them. But hope, too, has been turned into a product. A BD that promises to bring you forgiveness and faith by letting you feel the faithful die. A politician on live TV claiming a desire to help the populace while they cover a murder behind closed doors. A remastered anti-establishment rock song sold by a record label with each sale putting money into corporate pockets. Regardless of what they hold to, they're pulled into the capitalistic ritual one way or another. All beliefs and ideals are twisted to serve this place. Night City bills itself as a place where anyone can be anything, but it's only true as long as they stay within the strict lines the city sets. Their agency here is a facade. In the end, the city does to them all what it does to Joshua. It takes them by the hand and guides them into its maw, a sacrifice to the almighty prophet. And that's Night City for you folks. And don't forget to vote. I hear Jefferson Peralez has some plans to change this city for the better. Well, I wish him luck. Don't be surprised when what we discussed here today rears its head. Till next time, this has been Night City Case Files. Wow, that was fucking sad, man. Hey, look at cute little frog, look at Paul. What a happy little guy. Okay, so I feel like that would be a decent spot to start the conclusion, but there's one more thing that I want to talk about first. Cyberpunk is a game of many endings, and yet most of them don't wrap anything up. Not really. They detail the end of our time, the player's time, within this world. But not V's. Not the denizens of Night City. After the Phantom Liberty DLC, V can choose to get an operation that removes the relic and Johnny from their head. Told it would be a 2-month or so recovery time, information they share with friends and loved ones. And after a 2-year coma, they come to. Now brittle and unable to use implants, their body no longer strong enough to host them. The people they knew, the life they remembered, has passed. People have moved on. Kerry has continued his career and doesn't have time for V jumping back into his life. River has fallen on hard times, having sold NCPD secrets to Trauma Team to help pay for his nephew's medical bills. He doesn't want to see V.
Look, I'm not the man you used to know. Couldn't stand to look you in the eye. Not you. Not.
Other characters have either sold out to corporations or moved on from Night City entirely. V's life now reflects the life of the man they took out of their own. All the intimate moments that V shared with these people don't seem to matter. Their impact almost void on these people's lives, either forgotten or spoken of as something that happened ages ago with no bearing on the present. Only one person is still there for them. Their old Ripperdoc, Vic, and even they've changed. Sold out to Zetatech. With him, V discusses the fear not of death, but of life moving onward, of the things you know and love being forgotten, taken away, or changing so much you barely recognize them.
Funny. I was terrified I'd die for so long.
I don't see what's funny about that.
Point is, should have feared the passing of all the things I knew. Can't imagine how Johnny felt, waking up after 50 years.
And now V, without their implants, their ability, their agency, they're just another face in the crowd, unable to change or shift the tides as they roll in. The world has moved on, regardless of who you defeated, who you saved, what you stood for. It begs the question of if you, the player, were changing anything at all. Wow, this isn't gonna get any happier, is it? How about a frog break? Here he is. Well, that's how it goes. Nothing is eternal, and the city crushes all things. All we can hold on to is small moments and good memories. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 is a place where seemingly life-shattering events happen daily. Shady deals that transfer power in ways that shake the very foundation of the world. Marvels of technology that could alter the shape of the future, blocked behind million-dollar price tags. A place where politics and promises of change are all you might get out of those in power, with no action ever taken to make those words true. Where corporations advertise mechanical body parts as though they were clothes and maintain the legality to shut those parts off should you draw their ire. And regular people just live their lives. What else can they do? The cogs of the city whir, their lives teetering on the teeth. If you slow down too much or step out of line, you fall through, taken advantage of, corrupted, crushed, and broken. And getting back out is almost impossible. So the denizens of Night City simply shrug and trudge on. Those who try to fight it are either put down or wind up unrecognizable as the person they once were. The way of the world has been set in stone, in a way that all but ensures their inability to change it. Cyberpunk is not a game interested in endings. It is not interested in tying things up with a bow. Because this game doesn't present these NPCs as characters or Night City as simply a setting. They are people and the world they live in. There might be periods on a page to mark the end of a moment, but the story itself never ends. Life moves forward. And this style of storytelling, presenting these characters in this city as constantly moving forward, showing us their lives and their hardships, their moment-to-moment existence in this place, only serves to further nail home the point. These people cannot change this city. V, too, exists within the world of Night City as more than a vessel for the player. They pick things up. They motion to the bartender for another drink. They hold the hands of those they've lost. Together, these create a sense of genuine connection between the player, the world, and its inhabitants. And in a healthier environment, these small, intimate moments may have meant something, But in a city, in a culture that so actively beats down its citizens, these small acts of good become much less meaningful in the long run. The damage that simply having to live within Night City inflicts on its populace taking its toll. Corporations that seek to control people's resources, bodies, souls. Laws that allow corporations to skirt around them and abuse the most vulnerable for profit. Privatized medical bills so few can afford, leaving families desperate and led into crime-riddled streets. Police that only serve the wealthy and enforce law on a what I say goes basis. The list goes on. The issues that plague Night City are systematic in nature. They're designed to cause this suffering because it is profitable. And as you grow to connect and empathize with the people of Night City, the game hits you over the head with endings that make it clear, just like everyone else, your agency, the players, is a facade. The absolute most you do is kind of fuck over Arasaka, but on a grand scale, they don't die. They just pull operations out of Night City, their space being taken up by Militech and other corporate giants. This methodology allows for the oppressiveness of Night City to become abundantly clear. These people's lives continue on past your involvement, and while they and you live out their lives, the systems that keep Night City alive continue to affect them. In the end, you're just like everyone else. Like Johnny, Kerry, River, and Joshua. Like V. You can't change this place. Life in Night City keeps moving. It keeps moving until your body breaks under the pressure or a bullet brings it to a stop. And then, when you stop moving, everyone around you doesn't. Time moves on. People forget. People change. But the city stays the same.
Wake up with the same thought every damn day. That I might somehow fade into this town's steam, stench, murk. For good. I'm not the man you used to know. Couldn't stand to look you in the eye.
I am so afraid. Will you pray with me? A prayer of your choice.
Yes, I meant. I don't know. A happier ending. For everyone involved. Here, for folks like us. Wrong city. Wrong people. I just want the world to know that I was here. That I mattered.
You're afraid of being erased, as if you never existed. Or is it just the fear of becoming someone else? Different.
But how do I keep up with everything that's changing?
You have been keeping up. You've made an impact. Not a single thing in this world isn't in the process of becoming something else. Likewise, you. I don't decide what happens in here. Your subconscious drives everything.
Man, that was a downer compared to the other topics I've covered so far. But I have been obsessed with Cyberpunk 2077. How it builds its world, tells its stories, how it ties that into this theme of the crushing despair of a hyper-capitalistic culture. The thesis of this video. I am adding in an extra part here to the script, though, to say that there's a part of me that believes I'll regret making this video. It was meant to just be a discussion on a theme that I'd observed within the game and how it weaves that theme into its stories and gameplay, but as I kept writing it, it almost felt like it became a justification to fall into fatalism, to give up because of an oppressive system that says things are set in stone and there's no point in trying. And, well, I know I'm just talking about a video game here. It doesn't take much for one to read into these themes and apply them to our world. I like to think that this game uses these themes as a warning to us that we, in our world, must do what we can to stop the march of hyper-capitalistic giants who profit off of, well, not quite our souls yet, but they're certainly vying for our constant attention, our minds, if you will, and our homes, and our ability to own things, and a habitable earth for our children. To quote Ursula K. Le Guin, "We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. But then, so did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art." Unionize. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, even if it's the most depressing thing I've ever made. And don't worry about our frog chew. He's doing Nova. He was just hitting the virtues a little hard to get away from it all. Oh, and there's obviously plenty of characters and moments I didn't discuss in this video, different readings of these characters and stories. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this Preem BD, consider hitting like, flicking on over to some of my other videos, and scrolling that subscribe button. I'm gonna Delta.